Rev up your engines! Okay, I got an electric car, and before you call me a hypocrite, no one would give me an electric car because the electric car company's not going to tell the truth. So, instead, I borrowed one. I'm going to show you the truth about electric cars. Now, this is a little bitty BMW i3. And even though it has aerodynamic wheels, very thin tires to supposedly get better fuel ratings, everything's made out of plastic or carbon fiber. Plastic, so that it weighs less and go further. Check this out. I picked this thing up 25 miles away. It has a whopping 31 miles of range left. So let's just say it's not a practical car at all. That tiny amount of range in the real world, who's going to spend all this money for a BMW and use it as a little puddle jumper? You can see, even though it's an older car, 2015, it's only got 27,727 miles on it. So let's face the facts. If you're only getting 60-something miles of range, you're not going to be taking any cross-country trips in this baby anytime soon. This is a 2015 base model BMW i3. Should have made the battery bigger. I mean, it's kind of stupid, really. So, in the United States, these electric BMW i3s were a dismal failure. They don't go very far. But the second reason, which is just as important, is it's a little bitty car, right? That's not BMW's clientele. They want big SUVs, big luxury cars. I had a customer here who bought one of these, and he got it for about 20 grand used, because it sat at the BMW dealer for months. BMW clientele did not want this car. It rides great, phenomenal acceleration. We're going to go through the whole thing with my fancy scan tool, but with such a limited range, this thing is like a grocery store car, right? And for the money they were charging for these things, it's not surprising that they were dismal failures. So I'll go through the whole thing to show you how these things work. First, under the hood is a tiny frunk. In here you'll see, what's that? It's a regular 12-volt car battery, though it's tiny. Now don't think for 1 minute that tiny battery powers this car. Here's how all the electric cars I ever seen work. They got a bigger battery. In this case, it isn't all that big. The big battery that's on the bottom of the car is a 22 kilowatt hour battery. Not all that big, 22 kilowatt hour. Fancy Tesla, they have 103 kilowatt hour batteries, much bigger. Hence, they have a much further range than this thing has. They should have put a bigger battery in it. As they say in Jaws, I should have brought a bigger boat. Well, they should have put a bigger battery in this thing. Now, that's the main high voltage battery, but it also has, like I say, this regular 12-volt car battery. The high voltage one they see is too dangerous. So for safety reasons, they got a regular 12-volt, and when you turn the system on, that sends signals to all kinds of relays and computer modules to make sure it's okay to run the car. Then the car runs. So as nutty as it may sound, this little car battery in here goes bad, you won't be able to start the car. Now, as you can see, it's got special skinny old tires and aerodynamic wheels, so it can go as far as possible. But with this thing having the limited range I see it has now, they could have put a little better technology in. Those skinny tires aren't working out all that well, right? Put the skinniest baloney skin tires you want on this thing. The battery is just too small. It doesn't have enough energy even to push a plastic carbon fiber with skinny wheels down the road. Now, I do have to say it's a joy to drive when it does have electricity stored in it. It's super fast. When you take your foot off the gas, it brakes itself with regenerative braking. Again, try to make your range longer, but hey, it's a very limited range no matter what you do. And when we look inside, you can see it's not going to make most BMW owners happy. Nothing like a fancy BMW, right? I mean, they went for lightweightness. That's just what they've done. And it does have things like Comfort and Eco Pro to try to get even better gas mileage on it. They tried squeezing whatever they could out of this thing, right? They're trying to squeeze, but they didn't get much out of it. Of course, it has an AC system, but realize the AC system is also high voltage. So I didn't dare turn the thing on. It'll get even less range. Maybe I wouldn't even have made it back here. I don't know. Now, lucky enough for me, the guy who owned the house before me, I guess, had a Tesla. So I got an Autel charger. So I can charge this thing up. Now, the vehicles come with one of these stupid level 1 chargers. That's a level 2. Level 1 is 110 volts. It'll take you forever. 20 hours or more probably to recharge the battery. In this case, it's a level 2. So this little bitty battery, it'll probably charge it up in 3 or 4 hours. And you can see on my Autel app, it is now charging. So I'll watch the clock and see how much it takes to charge it up when it only has like 31 miles of range left. We'll charge it up and see what happens. Now we're waiting to see how much charge we get in an hour. Look up my giant Autel scan tool. It does a lot of stuff in electric cars. Now, Luckily, this is a BMW and not a Tesla. Tesla has different connectors, different stuff, of course, which is a pain in the butt. But these, I can plug a conventional plug for OBD2 in, as you're going to see. Although I do have to say the BMWs are kind of swines. It's hidden way in. We got to remove some of this panel here. There it is hiding up inside here. And it plugs in just like a regular one. And it's interfacing now. Okay, set us up. Let's do a fault scan. Let's see if there's any faults. Now, as we can see, there are a bunch of intermittent faults. Power managed, 12-volt batteries not being charged. Power management, cyclical recharge not successful. Now, these are intermittent faults in the battery and the motor management system, right? So that makes sense why this thing probably isn't going too far. Now, let's look at intelligent diagnosis here. Vehicle voltage and the battery in the trunk is dropping too low. Now you can see it's working now. It's 14.6 volts because we're recharging it. The energy shortage in high volt battery unit. Termination due to high voltage fault. Termination due to the malfunction of the DC to DC converter. Now yes, with a machine like this, you can trace it all down. Got all this library data. I'm just borrowing this car. I'm just showing you how complex these things are and how they're going to lose range as time goes on. Terminal 30 reset or deactivated. Battery discharge protection, automatic air circulate control, line disconnection or short circuit to battery positive. Now, these might be electric cars, but they're electric BMW cars. We're talking about up the wazoo repairs, insanely complex repair procedures. This is now a 9-year-old electric BMW. I guess like all other BMWs, they start falling apart. And now that it's been an hour, you'll see we're up to 41 miles of range. Even with a level 2 charger, it takes time to charge these things up. If I was charging this thing up with, let's say, a 110 volt one that the car comes with that you can just plug into any socket and don't need to use 220, it would take about 11 hours to charge it up. Granted, this isn't that big of a battery. It's a small battery. One of the reasons it has such crappy range. It's a long time. Now you got overnight, go ahead, plug it in, charge it up that way, right? But you can see it's a slow process charging this thing up. All kinds of things out with these. Dynamic stability control, electric parking brake, electronic power steering. Just realize these are complex cars. This one's getting older. It's already showing signs of failure in the electronic system. And they are tremendously expensive replacement parts when they break down. Anybody who would buy one of these things used when they get to be 9, 10 years old, gotta have rocks in their heads. But now for the good part. We're gonna take it for a ride. Very simple. Take it out of park, put it in drive, take the parking brake off, and away we go. Of course, it's super quiet. It's an electric car. We'll roll the window down. Needs a little lubrication there, but the car doesn't make any noise. I guess this thing is so old, it doesn't have to make noise. All the new ones have to have sound generators to make a noise. This is an old one. Doesn't make any external sounds. Now, it is a little bitty car, so when you hit these Rhode Island roads, it's a bumpy ride. Now, this thing doesn't ride like a luxury BMW by any stretch of the imagination. One big reason that it failed amongst BMW enthusiasts. These things weren't cheap. They're relatively expensive, right? And for the ride in a short range, it's not amazing that they don't sell them here anymore. There we got an opening, so here we go. Now, it is a pretty fast car because electric motors have almost instantaneous torque. So you step on the gas, hey, there you go. They throw you back in the seat. They're fun little things to drive for very short distances. Look, it's already gone down to 39 miles and we haven't gone a quarter of a mile. It was on 41, now it's on 39 already. You're gonna notice is this does have regenerative braking, so watch. I'll just take my foot off the gas. It's regenerating power. I'm not touching the brake, but the car actually stops itself completely. See, we're not moving anymore. It stops the car entirely. So, you gotta get used to driving like that, but they have to do things like to get any kind of range out of this. So here we go again. We'll give it a little gas. And look, it's down to 38. It lost another mile of range. You better drive this thing slow and low if you want to get any range out of it. Look, now it's down to 37 miles of range. Well, I've heard of big gasoline cars being gas hogs. This little baby is an electric hog. Scotty got an electric car. I'll tell you one thing, I'm glad I didn't buy it, and I'm just borrowing it. With the horrible range, and granted this thing does have problems, it takes a while to charge them up, even with a level 2 charger. Let's face the facts. It's a BMW, the parts cost a fortune. Fascinating technology, with funky little tires, aerodynamic rims. After all, this thing was $44,000 new. To go those short distances, that's all I gotta say is, I guess it was for those with mansions and they got a long driveway and they want to go pick their mail up so they could drive to get their mail and come back. Or drive to the beach if they live, you know, a few miles from the beach. As transportation, yeah. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.